Barry Frechette, very good to meet you. Thank you very much for coming along today. We've got a lot of questions for you, so if you might just dive on in. I know a lot of the background, but of course I'm always interested to hear about the updates. Since May the 27th of this year, the historic events of that day, what have been some of the new developments in response to the film, your own career and Mr. Mori's experiences?
Well, I think May the 27th was quite the day for all of us. In a way, pretty unexpected, but we had all kind of hoped at that point that, hoped and wished that the president would take some time out of his trip to meet with the Moris, and what actually happened was well beyond any of our imaginations. So when they embraced, I think everybody in the Paper Lantern family had a big old collective cry and a lot of joy and a lot of calls. So we were all very excited for him. The day before, we knew that they're at least going to be there, but never really understood that an actual personal meeting and what would happen at that event. From then, it's really been what's been nice for Mr. Mori. I think he's gotten a lot of accolades and a lot of attention paid to him, which is really, for me, I love it because I don't think he's ever really been looking for it, but in a great way, it's found the right person. So I think it's been exciting for us. For the film itself, certainly it's gotten more attention. I think there's certainly more interest in it. And as we get to festivals, there's still in the United States, there's still so much unknown about this story. So we've just recently finished re-editing the ending of the film to add in Mr. Mori and the president embracing a little bit of his speech. So it's a nice way to sort of recap. And when audiences now see the film, and then when it fades to black and we fade back up on that date, it sort of brings it full circle, especially for Mr. Mori. There's a wonderful line in the president's speech talking about ordinary people. And I think for us, the entire film talks about ordinary people affected by a terrible event, but somehow still finding ways to be kind to each other. And I think for us, the events of that day helped to of May 27th help put that in focus. And by adding that back in the film, I think that was our way to show and add a little something that day was so important for all of us. And audiences in the States, when they see it, they realize how big of a scale it sort of has been from Mori-san. So,
how many film festivals have you been screened at so far?
I've kind of forgotten. No, it's been maybe 13 or 14 so far. I think we've tried to be selective about where we go. I think I was very proud to be part of the United Nations Association Film Festival in San Francisco recently. I think the GI Festival, both in San Diego and Washington, D.C., was near and dear to me because certainly the message to our vets, the veterans in the associations don't quite understand what happened to American POWs in Hiroshima. So I think having a presence there was really important to us.
Has the response to the movie changed in any way? Has it evolved from people who saw it perhaps before May and then people who've seen it since? Has it changed in any way?
I don't think so. I think there might be a different political reaction. I think there was certainly lots of discussion that I was engaged in the days leading up to that date, especially how is President Obama going to react? Is he going to issue an apology? Should he issue an apology? There was a lot of discussions around there, but frankly, that wasn't part of the film. It goes back to ordinary people, having a dialogue and trying to reconcile after all these years. So I think that was that had some certainly impact on the film, but I don't think the reactions changed. I think for me, there's still when people see it, there's still sort of a reaction of like, wow, I had no idea that this actually happened. And I think the actual meeting of President Obama and the Moris sort of put a nice sort of exclamation point on the end of it. So still a lot unknown. People who don't know the story.
Okay. What's the reaction to you personally since the film became so well known? Have you you've been getting a lot of phone calls?
Yeah. We have, as a team and ourselves. I mean, we've gotten a lot of phone calls. I think it's because, when we started this film, it wasn't about this. It was really just trying to capture a piece of history before we lost it. So when all the phone calls came, mostly really from press leading up to and just around the date, certainly of President Obama's visit, it was like I was leading somebody else's life. I think for all of us, we all get a big kick out of all the interviews we do. But really, I think it's a testament to this story, and how it's not known to anybody. And I think people realize that they want to talk about it. So it's been quite a journey. I mean, we've talked to lots of folks on all the different continents at this point. And for me, I always felt when I was here shooting in 2015, a number of times, the press, there was a lot of interest here, the Japanese press, a lot. So okay. I think that story was always interesting to them, but it really wasn't on a national or international scale until, frankly, we got a little more traction. The film was finished, and then really once President Obama came, I think it kind of put a spotlight on certainly Mr. Mori, and then our journey to make the film.
Have your perceptions of Japan, Hiroshima, World War II, and the atomic bombing changed in recent months, obviously since the events of May, or is it?
I don't think much has changed for me. I think, well, I shouldn't be so quick to say that. I think for me, when President Obama actually went and delivered the speech he did, as an American, I was very proud of that moment. One of the things I had done early in research was that no sitting president had ever gone, and I felt that was far too long. And I think when he went and he delivered an incredible speech, and having been there and understanding what those images he described were, and to actually mention Mr. Mori in his speech, gave me great pause. And I think he wasn't there to apologize, and much like throughout our film, I don't think we ever were asked those kind of questions, should we apologize, should we not? It was more about recognizing what happened and doing the best we can not to have that happen again. And I think for me, hearing his speech was very moving. And I think has it changed my perception or my beliefs? I don't think so. And I in a way, I kind of feel the way, if I dare say, I feel the way at least the speech was what President Obama gave, is that we have a moral obligation to do our best not to let that happen again. But I think that speech was very, very important, and for me it reinforced, I think, the beliefs that we all had, and I think it was our takeaway as we experienced making the film and being with all these people, to have it synthesized in one speech was really powerful for us, because it was how we felt. We speak all the time on email. And it's wonderful when we get the emails. Usually by the time we wake up in the morning, there's an email in the inbox from...
On a daily basis?
Not quite a daily basis, quite a bit. But as part of the family, though, there's maybe 10 of us that are on this email chain. And as things happen, or we meet different people that are connected through the story, we'll update everybody. And it's really nice and very sweet, and it's quite a connection now. So the best email I think we got was, well, we get a lot of great emails from the Moors, but he was very excited to announce that we all should celebrate President Obama's birthday. And I said, oh, it's his new best friend. But it's those kind of things, and it's ordinary people stuff, and pictures of kids and events and updates on people's health, and it feels real. So I think to me that's it's been incredible. That to me has been almost as maybe more rewarding than actually making the film. These incredible connections we've all made.
Does he keeping you updated on his plans for the future? Obviously, he's done a great deal of work on this, but I seem to remember him mentioning that he was going to be putting in some research into Nagasaki and POWs in Nagasaki.
He's been there. Well, I wouldn't say it's new. He's been there at least 10 times now. He'll get down there, and he's been doing research on Dutch POWs. It's obviously been a little harder. The language is even more tougher because there's not enough access to translators in that area. But he's been doing that, and you know, we actually honored him with a special award through the Japan Society of Boston, and he couldn't make it. We tried to find a way to get him up to Boston. It just was too complicated and a lot of things going on. But we asked for a video of you know, what his reaction would be. We thought it might be a thank you, but it was Mr. Mori. If you know him, it was a very brief thank you, and then he went into talking about a new witness he had interviewed, whose father was there and helped translate the interrogation of the 12 POWs. So that's very typical of him. He never really wants to stop, and it's always researching. So it's been. I love those emails because we'll get the updates of here's who I met and here's how they fit into the story, and there's always something new to be uncovered. So I love that about him.
Do you know if Mr. Mori's had contact from, I mean, through the embassy and from Washington?
I'm not sure. I know he's gotten some nice messages, and they sent photos of the event. He updated that in an email to us. So I think they stay in touch certainly, and it's been good. So if he needs to travel or something like that, they can certainly help him. So I think he has a lot of new friends.
Did you know that Mr. Mori was going to be invited to the event, and then on the day, or literally a few minutes, as I understand it, literally a few minutes before Mr. Obama appeared, he was then ushered down to the front? I mean, were you aware that was the plan, or what was going to happen?
We had there was a lot of grassroots campaigning as part of the film family, we'll call it. You know, we had sent the film off to a number of people in government. So the American Embassy here had it, and we worked every channel possible to see if there's some way, because we really felt that if anyone does, you know, there's a lot of people deserve to meet the president, but as an American and what he'd done for the American POWs, I think it was a good idea for our president to have him there, at least in the audience. So we did our best to get him there, and we actually got a phone call, part of our group did, looking for his phone number. The American Embassy wanted his phone number. This is a few days before. So I think at that point we had a few high fives, and we kept our fingers crossed that maybe he's going to get an invite. But we did get an email, and I'll have to share it with you. But it was wonderful to get that email saying the American Embassy had just called us. Very, very blessed that my wife and I are coming, or have been invited to the ceremony, and will be in the presence of President Obama. None of us really realized what that meant. So, you know, when he was ushered down front, I believe that was sort of a last-minute call, probably by certainly the government officials at the time, to get him closer up front. And at that point, I can only imagine that at that point, if Mr. Mori is mentioned in the speech, referred to in the speech, that probably got his ticket to the front row. So,
has Mr. Mori sort of shared his feelings with you? I mean, about that, you know, those quite powerful few seconds, that minute.
Yeah, in his notes to us, you know, I think he was a little nervous about it, and I don't want to speak too much for him. I can't imagine what it'd be like to get that call and to go up there and not know what to expect. Terrified and exciting, but I think he was a little bit nervous, and I just said, I had sent an email back saying, listen, I know you're not looking for this attention, but all of us are there in spirit. I mean, and when I say all of us, I mean all of us. You know, all the folks back in the States, the folks in the villages, the spirits of these 12 Americans and their families. I mean, all of them were there with him.
He looks, he teared up at one point, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. I think it became overwhelming. I can't imagine at that moment to have your life's work being recognized by the President of the United States. He did, and I think I give President Obama a ton of credit, because that moment just happened where this Mr. Mori gets emotional and gets obviously emotional over this moment, and for the president to sort of lean in and comfort him, there's something else. That image is so iconic at this point for all of us, and in a way it helps bring a lot of closure for a lot of people. And I think I'm very empathetic of the president to understand that situation and to reach out, and even the briefest of embraces meant so much to him. So I'll have to see what's next for that part of it. But for me, I don't think the story here is quite done yet. I think there's a lot we can talk about, and I think sharing the film, and I get more excited about sharing the film with students and different audiences and having that dialogue and that discussion, and I think using that as Kindle to start bigger thoughts. I think I love that, and I think if the film can do that, then I think it can have a life much further than screening it with audiences. And I think it's an important message that is timeless in a way. So if we can learn from it, that's why I think there's still more things to be done with it.
So you're going to be coming back to Japan on and off for
No, I don't know. We'll see. This has been a great trip. It's a very quick one,
Yeah.
but I do love it. I love coming here. I think for me, that's why I brought my family this time, because I think it was important that they experience this. As crazy as it is, to understand, as they've watched the film come together and help with me to will this thing to life with the rest of the Paper Lanterns family. There's a reason why we're doing it, and to make these connections and to be exposed to a different culture. There's a reason in the film there's lots of images of hands and faces and reactions, and it's very personal, and it's ordinary people, but at the same time we are just people. So I think language and culture is just one thing to sort of help to understand. I think coming here, especially with my family, and to go to Hiroshima and actually be there and go to Akachi and the villages and see the people that are in the film, and they're just real people too. And it's an experience that I wish everybody could go on, and in some way, by going and seeing the film, you kind of go on that with us.
Thank you.
You're welcome.